Hello everyone. So we are in the second chapter of the Undercover Economist, and the name of the chapter is "What Supermarkets Don't Want You to Know." So let me check if the life's going well, and I guess it is. So now, what supermarkets don't want you to know? Those of you who have visited London recently have probably been to the London Eye, the capital's landmark Ferris wheel. On a sunny day, you can purchase a cappuccino from Costa Coffee and sit and sip as the capsules on the wheel rotate high above, occasionally passing between you and the sun. One of life's simple pleasures. Everywhere you look around the eye, you can see vendors. Wait, let me just edit this, transform, and it's no, it is Zara. Everywhere you look around the eye, you can see vendors with scarce resources trying to exploit that scarcity. Costa Coffee is the only coffee bar in the immediate area, for instance. There is also a lone souvenir shop doing brisk business. But the most obvious example is the London Eye itself. It towers over most of London's most famous buildings and is the world's largest observation wheel. The scarcity power is clearly considerable, but it is not unlimited. The London Eye may be unique, but it is also optional. People can always choose not to go. Turns out they can. Farther along the river, the Millennium Dome, a colossal government funded white elephant designed for millennial celebrations, is similarly unique. The largest fabric structure in the world boasts the local authority. Yet the dome has proved a commercial disaster because uniqueness alone wasn't enough to persuade people to pay enough to cover the vast cost of its construction. Businesses with scarcity power cannot force us to pay unlimited prices for their products, but they can choose from a variety of strategies to make us pay more. It's time for the undercover economist to get to work and find out more. As the only coffee provider beside the London Eye, the Costa Rica bar wields plenty of scarcity power over the customer. It's not innate to Costa, but is reflected glory from the amazing setting. As we know, because customers will pay high prices for coffee in attractive locations, Costa's rent will be high. Costa's landlords have rented out some of this scarcity value to a coffee bar, just like the owners of Manhattan skyscrapers or train stations from Waterloo in Shinjuku. Scarcity is for rent at the right price. But how should Costas exploit this scarcity? They are renting from the London Eye. They should simply raise the price of cappuccino from €1 75 cents, which is about $3, to €3, nearly $6. Some people would pay it, but many would not. Remember, the millennial dome scarcity gives you power, but not limitless power. Alternatively, they could cut prices and sell much more coffee. They could cover wages and ingredients by charging as little as 60 cents, 60 pence, $1 a cup. But unless they were able to increase their sales dozens of times over, they'd not make enough to cover their rent. That's the dilemma. Higher margins per cup but fewer cups, or lower margins on more cups. It would be nice for Costa to sidestep that dilemma by charging 60 pesos to the people who are not willing to pay more than $3, €3 to people and not willing to pay more, and €3 to people who are willing to pay a lot to enjoy the coffee and the view. That way, they would have the high margins whenever they could get them and still sell. Uh, no way. They would have the high margins whenever they could get them and still sell coffee at a small profit to the skinflins. How to do it? Do. have a price list saying cappuccinos 3 euros unless you're only willing to pay 60 pesos? It doesn't have to have a certain something. It does have a certain something, but I doubt it would catch on with the coffee buying public of London's South Bank. So Costa has to be more subtle. For a while, Costa hit upon an elegant strategy. Costa, like most other coffee bars these days, offers fair trade coffee. Theirs comes from a leading fair trade brand called Cafe Direct. Cafe Direct promises to offer good prices to coffee farmers in poor countries. For several years, customers who wish to support third world farmers, and such customers are apparently not uncommon in London, were charged an extra 10 pence, about 18 cents. They may have about extra 10 cents, about 18 cents. They may have believed that the 10 pence went to the struggling coffee farmer. The evidence suggested that none of that money went anywhere but Costa's bottom line. Cafe Direct paid farmers a premium of between 40 and 55 pence up to a dollar per pound of coffee. That relatively small premium can nearly double the income of the farmer in Guatemala, where the average income is less than $2,000 a year. But since the typical cappuccino is made with a quarter ounce of coffee beans, the premium paid to the farmer should translate into a cost increase of less than a penny a cup. Of the extra money that Costa charged, more than 90% was going missing between the customer and the farmer. So either Costa and Craft Cafe Direct were wasting the money through higher costs, or it was being added to profits. Fair trade coffee associations made a promise to the producer, not the consumer. If you buy fair trade coffee, you are guaranteed that the producer will receive a good price. But there is no guarantee that you will receive a good price. The truth is that fair trade coffee wholesalers could pay two, three, or sometimes four times the market price for coffee in the developing world without adding anything noticeable to the production cost of a cappuccino, because coffee beans make up such a small proportion of that cost. Charging an extra 10 pence gave a misleading impression of how much it really costs to get hold of that fair trade coffee. After some inquiries by a certain undercover economist, Costa worked out that the whole business gave a wrong impression, and at the end of 2004 began to offer fair trade coffee on request without a price premium. Costa abandoned the premium of fair trade coffee because it was bad public relations, not because it was unprofitable. Bad haircut, not because it was unprofitable, which is very bad. But why was it profitable to charge a higher markup on the cost of production on fair trade coffee than on normal coffee? Certainly not because Costa objected to the whole idea of fair trade and tried to discourage such idealistic behavior with their pricing. The reason has nothing to do with fair trade at all. It's because fair coffee allowed Costa to find customers who were willing to pay a bit more if given a reason to do so. By ordering a fair cappuccino, you send two messages to Costa. One message interested them very little. I think that fair coffee is a product that should be supported. Like this is what interested them very little. And the second message is the one that and the second message is the one that they were straining to hear. I don't really mind paying a bit extra. This immediately gave Costa the information. They know that socially concerned citizens tend to be less careful with their cash in coffee bars, while unconcerned citizens tend to keep the price. Costa's strategy was designed to get maximum value out of the scarcity power they've rented from the London Eye. They are torn between raising prices and losing customers, or lowering prices and losing margins. If they have to charge the same price to every customer, they will simply have to guess the best trade off between the two options. But if they can charge a high price to the lavish or concerned, or low price to the thrifty or unconcerned, then they can enjoy the best of both worlds. Costa has pledged any well run business would seek to charge each customer the maximum price he'd be willing to pay, and they do. Take a Starbucks. Any Starbucks for the sake of argument. Take the Starbucks on P Street and 14th in Washington DC. The price looks like this. Hot chocolate $2.20. Cappuccino $2.55. Cafe mocha $2.75. White chocolate mocha $3.20 and 20-pound cappuccino $3.40. Or to translate, hot chocolate no frills 220, cappuccino no frills 255. Mix them together, I feel special 275. Use different powder, I feel very special 320. Make it hues, I feel greedy 340. Starbucks mainly isn't seeking to offer a variety of alternatives to customer. It's also trying to give the customer every opportunity to signal that they have not been looking at the price. It doesn't cost much more to make a larger cup, to use a flavored syrup, or to add chocolate powder or a squirt of whipped cream. Every single product on the menu above costs Starbucks almost the same to produce, down to the odd nickel or two. Does this mean that Starbucks is overcharging all of its customers? No. If so, a regular cappuccino or hot chocolate would cost 330 and you could have all the frills you wanted for a dime. Perhaps Starbucks would like to do that, but they can't force price sensitive customers to pay those prices. By charging vividly different prices for products that have largely the same cost, Starbucks is able to smoke out customers who are less sensitive about price. Starbucks doesn't have a way to identify lavish customers perfectly, so it invites them to hang themselves with a choice of luxurious robes. There's one gone every minute, two ways to find them. There are three common strategies for finding customers who are cavalier about price. Let's cover two for now and leave the best for the last. The first is what economists call the first degree price discrimination, but we could call it the unique target strategy. To evaluate each customer as an individual and charge according to how much or he or she is willing to pay. This is this is the strategy of the used car salesman or the real estate agents. It usually takes skill and a lot of effort, hardly surprising. Then that is the, that it is most often seen for items that have high value relative to the realtor's the retailer's type. Cars and houses, of course, but also souvenirs in African street stalls, where the impoverished merchant will find it worth bargaining for some time to ex- gain an extra dollar. Now, however, companies are trying to automate the process of evaluating individual customers to reduce the time it takes. For instance, supermarkets accumulate evidence of what you're willing to pay by giving you discount cards, which are needed to take advantage of sales price. In return for getting a lower price on certain items, you allow the stores to keep records of what you buy and then in turn offer you coupons for discounts on products. It doesn't work perfectly because supermarkets can only send money off coupons, not money on coupons. Money on coupons have never been a success. When technology allows firms with scarcity power may use highly sophisticated methods to target customers. It's no secret anymore that internet retailers such as Amazon can identify each customer by putting a tracing device called a cookie on her computer. Amazon used to tailor their prices based on their records of individual customers. The company really was able to offer money on vouchers. Two readers buying exactly the same book would be offered a different price based on tendencies shown in previous purchases, even though it would be more difficult than for the online sales. Supermarkets could, with the right technology, do the same thing. Each customer could have an identity tag, and price labels would change according to who was looking at them. Of course, the unique target approach is unpopular in Amazon is unpopular. In Amazon's case, customers started to realize that if they deleted the cookies on their customers, they were offered different, often lower prices. And when they found out what the company was doing, there was an outcry. Like Costa, Amazon had promised not to do it anymore. I'm so happy with the customers right here. Interestingly, people tend not to object nearly so much to the second approach, the group target strategy, which is to offer different prices to members of distinct groups. Who could complain about reduced bus fares for children and the elderly? Surely, it must be reasonable for coffee shops to offer a discount to people who work nearby and for tourist attractions to let locals in for a lower rate. Hmm. It often seems reasonable because people in groups who pay more are usually people who can afford more. And that's because people who can afford more are usually people who care less about price. But we shouldn't forget that this is a convenient coincidence. Companies trying to increase their profit and get the maximum value out of their scarcity are interested in who is willing to pay more rather than who can afford to pay more. For instance, when Disney World in Florida offers admission discounts for over 50% to locals, they're not making a statement about the grinding property of the Sunshine State. They simply know that for a reduced fare, locals are more likely to come regularly, but tourists will probably come once and once only, whether it is cheap or expensive. This example gets to the heart of things and tells us what we really mean by price sensitivity or being lavish or being cavalier about prices. The important concept is this: when I raise the price, how much do my sales fall? And when I cut the price, how much do my sales rise? Economists tend to call this own price elasticity. Personally, I think price sensitivity is a bit more descriptive. Tourists visiting Florida are less price sensitive than locals, which means that if Disney World raises its prices, locals are more likely to skip a day at the park. But by the same token, if the admission price falls, locals may make repeat visits in a way that tourists probably wouldn't. Being rich is sometimes connected with being insensitive to prices, but not always. Business class air travel is expensive because companies are willing to pay, and airlines have the scarcity power to take advantage of the fact. Business phone telephone calls are inexpensive because although companies would be willing to pay, there is too much competition around for any phone company to force them to. The same is true. The Discount reflects the fact that local workers are price sensitive despite being rich. Commuters who pass through Waterloo in a hurry see only one or two coffee bars and are willing to pay high prices for convenience. Local workers pop out of the office at 11 a.m. for coffee and could walk in any direction. They can buy from several cafes, all equally convenient, all of which they will have had a chance to sample. They are bound to be more price sensitive even if they are rich. The individual target strategy is difficult, partly because it requires a lot of information and partly because it tends to be very unpopular. Despite the difficulties, however, it is so profitable that companies always explore new ways to do it. The group target strategy of discounts for students or locals is less effective but easier to put into action, and it's usually socially acceptable. Even welcomed, either will deliver more profits than simply treating all customers as a homogeneous mass. The third way, Turkey is voting for Thanksgiving. Now, this is a very funny topic and I find it very interesting. Turkey is voting for Thanksgiving. The cleverest and most common way to persuade Turkeys to vote for Thanksgiving is a self incrimination strategy. The one Costa Coffee and Starbucks both use when they persuade some of their customers into confessing that they are not sensitive to price. To get customers to give themselves away, the company has to sell products that are at least slightly different from each other. So they offer products in different quantities, a large cappuccino instead of a small one, or an offer of three for the price of two, or with different features, with whipped cream, with white chocolate, or fair trade ingredients, or even in different locations, because a sandwich in a station kiosk is not the same product as a physically identical sandwich in an out of town superstore. It's reasonable to ask how common this tactic really is, because the products are different. You never quite know whether the firm is using the price targeting trick or merely passing on added costs. It could be that it really does cost 10 pesos, about 20 cents more, to put trade coffee in a cappuccino. Maybe cans of whipped creams are expensive to refrigerate and troublesome to clean, and staff hates using them. Perhaps large cups of coffee take longer to drink, and so the charge is for table space, not coffee. In which case, charging a higher price is not a strategy to get me to incriminate myself, but simply Costa passing its costs through me. But I think it's safe to say that companies are always allowed for ways to squeeze the maximum advantage out of um to squeeze the maximum advantage out of whatever scarcity power they have. And price targeting is the most common way to do that. If it looks like price targeting, it probably is. Although use of this strategy is hard to prove, there's plenty of circumstantial evidence around if you know where to look. For instance, the premium you pay for a large cappuccino instead of a small one is no is the same whether you drink it in cafe or take it away. Except for my favorite shop, the Monmouth in Covent Garden in London. They are short of space and will charge a markup for a large cappuccino if you drink it in the shop. However, they charge less for a takeout coffee, and it comes in only one size. I have decided they are far too nice to try to make profits. This doesn't make sense, and if it's a charge for taking up space, this doesn't make sense if it's a charge for taking up space. So we have good reasons to believe that the coffee bars tried for a self-targeting strategy, charging high prices to customers who demonstrate a willingness to pay them. Coffee bars are not alone. Supermarkets have turned price targeting into an art, developing a vast area of strategies toward that end. Above the main concourse of London's Liverpool Street Station, there is a Marks and Spencer Simply Food store, catering to busy commuters on the way in and out of London. We know all about the scarcity value of train stations by now, so perhaps it shouldn't surprise us to find that this store isn't cheap, even compared with another brand of Marks and Spencer, merely 1500 feet or so away or more gate. How far would you walk to save 30 pesos? About 1500 feet, 500 meter is all that separates two Marks and Spencer stores with somewhat different pricing policies. But for most city dwellers, it's just not worth the walk. I picked up five products at random in the Liverpool street and managed to locate four of them in the mortgage store. Every single one was about 15% cheaper there. Big salads were down from $3.50 to €3.50 to €3, €6 60 cents to €5 65 cents. Sandwiches from $2.20, $1.90 to $4. But even when such discrepancies come to light, few city workers would be willing to stay there several blocks to save 30 pence, about half a dollar. A bold and effective price targeting. Piece of price targeting. I'll get my charger and be right back. My laptop's kind of out of charge. And I'll also get my glasses. And my laptop isn't dead in the middle of a storm. Yes. No, it's not. Lucky me. Is it charging? Uh, um, we're moving on as lucky. As of now, yep. Okay. I'm back with my glasses, and now let's continue. And I find this point ex, very exciting and entertaining, and also like informative. Like there are three types of strategy. For example, the first strategy was like um when when Amazon tried different prices on different people, and people were clearly upset about it, and the customers helped to prevent it. The second strategy was when Amazon, no, when yeah, like different pricing point for different people. And the third strategy, like for example, a cheaper bus fare for students. And the third strategy was to make slightly different products so that they could charge slightly different amounts for the same product. So it's like that's the best strategy. The third strategy. How far would you walk to save 30 pesos? And these strategies have shown a combination of two things. Like the first thing is scarcity, and the second thing is putting the right price. Like scarcity and still having the power of scarcity, and still offering different price ranges to the customers so that they get to choose whether they are someone who can pay more or not. About 1500 feet, 500 meter is all that separates. Yeah. I picked up five products and saw a clear difference. Yeah. Other supermarkets are more circumspect about their pricing policy. Going undercover once again, I made a comparison between the smallish Sainsbury, Sainsbury's supermarket on Tottenham Court Road in the heart of London's West End and the large store in Dalston, one of East London's less prosperous neighborhoods. It was harder to find examples of identical products selling for different prices, although by no means impossible. Does this mean that Sainsbury's doesn't uh, price price target as much as M&S? Not at all. They simply go about the whole process with more finesse. While researching Sainsbury's, my approach was the same with M&S. Walk into the shop and see what caught my eye. As you probably know, what catches your eyes are as you walk into the supermarket is no coincidence. It's the result of careful planning designed to throw attractive but profitable products in the path of customers. What constitutes an attractive product depends on who those customers are. On Tottenham Court Road, the office goods were all quite expensive. Tropicana orange juice, €1.95 a liter. Tropicana smoothies, $3.50 for 100 ml, 250 ml of Vital mineral water at 80 pesos, $1.50, and so on. It wasn't that these products were more expensive in Tottenham Court Road than in Dalston. Only the Whittle was. So one was. It was just that in Dalston, cheaper substitutes sprang into view from far more readily. For instance, I couldn't find inexpensive orange juice in Tottenham Court Road store, but in Dalston, Sainsbury's own brand of fresh chilled juice was sitting next to the Tropicana at about half the price, and the concentrated juice was about six times cheaper than Tropicana. Brand name pasta was the same price in both shops, but only in Dalston was it sitting next to Sainsbury's pasta, which again was almost six times cheaper. The effect was to target the whole Tottenham Court Road store and at shoppers who are indifferent to prices, but to aim the Dalston stores at shoppers with a sharper eye for a bargain, while of course giving any price blind Dalston shopper plenty of opportunity to show their true colors. Price gouging the natural way. The best price targeters pair their efforts to improve profits with apparently virtuous behavior. We've seen how Costa Coffee trumpeted its commitment to fair trade while using it to identify customers with money to burn. It's also good business to offer discounts to the elderly and to students. Translation: higher prices to people likely to have jobs. But who but a cynic or an economist could object such a commendable behavior? The favorite game at the moment has to be price gouging, the natural way riding the bandwagon of organic food. Organic food is catching on for a variety of reasons, including the fact that in the wake of repeated food health scares, many people think organic food is better for them or at least won't kill them. The supermarkets have come to the rescue with a plentiful supply of organic products that happen to be marked up far above their additional costs to the supermarket. In British supermarkets, there are often stacked these are often stacked together, apparently for the convenience of the organic shopper, but also to the advantage of the supermarkets who thereby reduce the risk of organic shoppers will reduce notice the price of the typical alternative. In Washington DC's Whole Foods store, just across the street from Starbucks, the vast and luxurious fruit and vegetable section contains both organic and conventionally grown produce side by side, but always side by side with a completely different product. The organic bananas are next to the conventional this is non-organic that is non-organic apples. The organic garlic is next to the conventional onions. But will you ever find the organic bananas next to the conventional bananas or the organic garlic next to the conventional garlic? The price comparison would be too sobering. But is expensive organic food really part of the price targeting tactic? Organic food should be more expensive. It costs more to produce and with a shorter shelf life, it is more expensive to distribute than the standard product. But as with your cappuccino, raw ingredients are only a small part of the price of the most on the supermarket shelves. For example, in the UK, organic milk commands a premium of around 50 cents per quart, but the farmer sees less than 20 cents of this. We should not be surprised that supermarkets are taking the opportunity offered by the organic food movement to zap customers with well-aimed price increases. My recommendation, if you're convinced of the merits of organic food, is not to let food retailers exploit your enthusiasm. Vote with your wallet by supporting any retailer or this direct supplier who brings the price of organic and non-organic food closer together. This is a great advice. Take it from the farmers or the retailers who take it from the farmer with like a lower margin as compared to like supermarkets. Bargain shopping and bargain stores. Whenever I mention to people that I live near the Whole Foods supermarket in central Washington DC, they comment on how wonderful the store is. Whole Foods prides itself on being the world's leading natural and organic food supermarket, touts to its community involvement, and offers a jungle of fresh fruits and vegetables alongside hormone-free steaks, European cheeses and beers, and luxury chocolates. It's a fun place to shop and offers great food. But my acquaintances also complain about how expensive Whole Foods is. But is it really expensive? That depends on what you mean by expensive. To compare prices in Whole Foods with prices in Safeway, just 5 blocks away, a store known to the locals as the Soviet Safeway because of the small range of products and the harsh decor. Compare the price of the typical Whole Foods shopper's basket of goods, and 9 times out of 10, it will indeed be more expensive than the typical Safeway shopper's basket of goods. but that says more about the shoppers than the stores. As a matter of verifiable fact, when you compare the prices of the same goods, Whole Foods is just as inexpensive as Safeway. Safeway and Whole Foods charge exactly the same for bananas, exactly the same for carton of cherry and or grape tomatoes. Admittedly, Safeway's prices on yellow onions, iris butter, and Cheerios are lower, but Whole Foods charges less for mineral water, Tropicana premium orange juice, and sweet onions. The simple truth is that if you bought a big basket of the same goods from Safeway and from Whole Foods, the price tag would probably come out within a dollar or two, and it would be just as likely that Whole Foods was cheaper. That doesn't quite fit with our common sense belief that some places are cheap and some places are expensive. But that belief never made sense. After all, if some places really did predictably charge more for the same product with similar service in a similar location, that would imply that all of their customers were just idiots. Whole Foods is more fun to shop in, but when push comes to shop, it's still just a supermarket, and you wander around filling your own cart just as in Safeway. Whole Foods is not expensive in the sense that it charges more for the same goods. It is expensive because of where its price targeting policies are focused. Prices for the basics may have may be competitive, but the selection in Whole Foods is aimed at customers with a different view of what basics are. For example, Safeway charges more for Tropicana orange juice and for Poland Spring sparkling mineral water than Whole Foods does. When Whole Foods customers for Whole Foods customers, Tropicana juice and sparkling water are the basics, so they need to be priced competitively. While Safeway customers might well consider that tap water and concentrated orange juice were perfectly acceptable alternatives. A Safeway customer who buys sparkling water and fresh Tropicana juice is signaling a taste for luxury. A Whole Foods customer may pass by a cheaper option to Tropicana in favor of more expensive smoothie made of fresh squeezed juice and in-house juice bar. The basic yellow and sweet onions are priced similarly at both stores. But at Whole Foods, customers have the option to pick fancy varieties, pearl onions, red onions, even organic onions, and a hefty markup. The Whole Foods shopper who is looking for decently priced products will find them. The Whole Foods shopper who grabs a bag of first onion he sees will pay dearly for his lack of price curiosity. This is why a basket of goods from Whole Foods can cost so much more than a basket of goods from Safeway. It's not because Whole Foods is expensive. Whole Foods customers are stupid. Sorry, this is the author's opinion. Why am I saying sorry? But still, please bad to say that. It's because Whole Foods offers additional expensive choices which Whole Foods shoppers are willing to take because they perceive the quality premium is worth it. So here's my advice. If you want a bargain, don't try to find a cheap store. Try to shop cheaply. Similarly, similar products are very often priced similarly. An expensive shopping trip is a result of carelessly choosing products with a high markup rather than wandering into a store with bad value. Because price targeting accounts for much more of the difference between prices than in difference in value. between one store and another. Mix it up. Another very common pricing strategy is sale pricing. We're all so used to seeing a store-wide sale with hundreds of items reduced in price that we don't pause and ask ourselves why on earth stores do this. I will continue the rest of it from tomorrow, okay? Because I'm tired today and I'm in pay, I'm in 34 out of 64, and this is probably supposed to be faster, but it's so tired today. Bye bye. I'll put the part 2 of the chapter 2 in my next